Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the Thinking LSAT podcast in Los Angeles. I am Nathan Fox, and with me in Washington, D.C. is Ben Olson. Ben, how's it going, buddy?
It's going good. Day after the election. Last night I had class, and during class, we had the TV was not on in class, but out in the lobby. Wow, just watching those results come in has made me eat crow this morning. I literally came up with a paradox question in which Trump won, and I thought that was such an interesting paradox and a good example to try to explain that question type. And lo and behold, it's come to pass. So,
are you super devastated?
No, because to be honest, I wasn't excited about Clinton, so I could not vote for Trump because he's just a crazy person. But I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not crying or anything. I'm just sort of like, oh, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah.
So
it's not the end of the world for me either, but I know that it is the end of the world, or seems like it for many people, especially young people. I actually sent out a discount code this morning for my online class, $200 off, 1 week only, and it's the code is Trumpocalpyse. So you put in the Trumpocalpyse code and you get $200 off.
If you can spell that correctly.
Well, there's a link too, and I tweeted it out and everything.
Yeah.
Email me if you have any questions about it, but it's just 1 week only, and it's a way to channel your rage if you're super pissed off about the election.
There's nothing that capitalism can't solve.
Yeah, totally. I mean, me personally, it's not. I was on I do this stair hike thing with a bunch of random people in Los Angeles on Tuesday nights. And
wait, what do you do?
It's just a hike, like an urban hike. There's a bunch of Los Angeles is really, really hilly. I don't know. People don't realize that Los Angeles has all these crazy staircases that are built into the neighborhoods. And it's just a nice way to get out and, stretch your legs, get some exercise, and see the city and chat with folks. So it's a bunch of random people that meet up on Tuesday nights, and we go climb these stairs, and then we eat pizza and drink beer afterward. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun. But they're like a bunch of, we're in Los Angeles, so it's a bunch of sort of educated, liberal folks, and they're just like completely heartbroken last night. And it was actually kind of difficult for me to even hang out with them because I was like, I'm not totally devastated. For me, it's like, okay, this guy's a douche. He is, he's aggressively sort of anti-intellectual, but I've already lived through a president who was aggressively anti-intellectual.
I do think it is interesting that what he might do to the Supreme Court, speaking of how this might relate to law. I was listening this morning. We obviously have the seat that's empty right now from Scalia. And I guess, some of those other justices are getting pretty old and will probably step down or pass away, however that happens. And then Trump will likely, be selecting a conservative. So the bench will become more conservative than it has been in the past.
Yeah, well, that's always the argument for why the presidency actually matters, right? That never changes. Yeah, who knows? It's hard to see Trump as actually a social conservative. I don't really know that he, I think he had to sort of play to his base a little bit. But do you think Trump actually gives any shits about abortion? I have a hard time believing that he does.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. And someone else was saying today too that whenever gay marriage or other issues like that came up, he just didn't even want to talk about them. And I think that's because he doesn't care about them, but he can't come out in favor of them. But who knows? I
don't think he cares about anything other than just getting elected. Which he did. He's just like, I mean, he said it way before he ran for president, right? He basically telegraphed exactly what he would do. He was like, well, half of the country and people are idiots, and I can just say things and just get elected. And so then that's exactly what he did.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows what he'll actually do, or whether he'll be able to do much when he's in power,
Yeah.
I mean, we
Yeah.
might just never appoint another Supreme Court justice the way things are going. We're just going to have them, they'll just die off and then there'll just be nobody left.
Wait, why don't you think anyone would be appointed?
Well, hasn't it been the longest gap ever on the current ninth seat that's not filled?
Yeah, but I mean, the House, the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and they're probably gonna. I mean, he's gonna come to some terms with them on somebody, I think.
Yeah, well,
So
we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's interesting times, I suppose. But
yeah,
I guess we should get back to business.
yeah, cool. A lot of interesting stuff today, right?
Yeah, well, we already recorded, and we will put it later in the show. We recorded an interview with Anne Levine, lawschoolexpert.com, Anne Levine, and we talked a lot about what's going on in this current admissions cycle. She made an argument for, hey, you're pissed off about the election, go to law school and do something about it. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be the one that's going to be fighting all of these battles. So go to law school and do something about it. We also have on the show a bunch of letters from listeners. I'm not exactly sure how far we're going to get, but we have another note about accommodations. We have a complimentary note about LSAC proctors. That's a rare one, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
We have something from Scott about not spotting flaws. One little quick teaser. We're going to really try not to be too cheesy about this, but Ben and I hear all the time comments like, yeah, I really wish I lived in your area so I could take one of your classes. And we are shocked to realize that people don't know about our products. So just a little bit of a warning. We're going to make an effort to try to get in little messages about the products we offer onto the show.
Yeah.
We each have online programs. We each have online private one-on-one tutoring. I have a whole bunch of books that I wrote, and we're going to just kind of try to sneak in a few promos. So I guess I'll be the guinea pig and start with one. I talked about this in the interview with Anne Levine too, but for people who are pissed off about the election, I just announced a coupon code for my online class. The code is Trumpocalpyse, and it's 1 week. It's $200 off. I haven't given a $200 off discount like that before. It's a silver lining if you're super pissed and you want to get cracking on the LSAT.
Yeah.
In later shows, I will intentionally give Ben the opportunity to pimp his own products as well. It's just, hey, you don't pay anything for the show, so you're going to have to listen to a couple promos. We'll try not to make them too annoying.
So I don't have a promo going right now, but my online program does cure cancer. So
awesome! Wow, that's even better.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, what do you think? Dive in here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Dear Ben and Nathan, thanks for your podcast. I started listening in August almost every day when I was working out at the gym or walking, and listened to every episode between then and the September LSAT. They made my gym time fun and helped motivate me to study hard. I learned much from your discussions beyond prep tests and my own practice review. Thank you very much. Yeah, well, thanks for listening. Thanks for writing. Episode 72.5 was particularly inspiring for me. I listened to episode 66 after my June test and realized that I probably also made the mistake of taking the LSAT too seriously. Unfortunately, I allowed myself to be obsessed with it for another 2 months after the realization. I started prepping for the LSAT in late December last year, aiming for the February test. I decided to withdraw two days before the test day and registered for the June test. Right away, right there, I would say, hey, good job recognizing that you were not ready for February.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No shame in withdrawing when you're not ready.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I had a panic attack during the June test. Whoops. Canceled the score later and registered for the September test. What do you think there?
Probably shouldn't have canceled. Who knows how bad it was? I mean, I guess if it was a bona fide panic attack and this person didn't answer any of the questions, then sure.
Right.
But probably not.
Yeah, I mean, if you sat there and did the test, generally you should probably just keep your score. Law schools only care about your highest score. So why not just, get your score?
Yeah, the canceled score is still going to count for the 1 in 3 that you can take within a 2-year period. And just as we talked about in the last episode, someone got a 173 that they almost canceled.
Yeah, right. That was the
Oh,
very
man.
last episode. Yeah. Anyway, that's water under the bridge. So, registered for the September test. I had anxiety attacks during the September test again and ended up with a 168, which I believe was far below my capability.
That's a pretty good score. So I'm not too sure what this listener was expecting. Well, who is this, by the way? Are we allowed to say their name?
I think we need to make up a name. Let's say Leaf.
Leaf. So,
Leaf.
168 is a pretty good score. I mean, that is the 96th, right, percentile? Maybe the 97th, 96th. And
Leaf's prep was also pretty intense. So the question is, it's only 25 days from the December test. What do I do? But Leaf sent us a chart with results from each prep test from 40 through 78, which she did 3 times. Oh, sorry. She did 40 through 74 under test conditions 3 times.
yeah, wow.
And she did 75 through 78 twice. She
Yeah.
also drilled games and logical reasoning questions from PTs 1 through 38 by type and reading comprehension by section. I don't know what that means, 3 times.
Yeah.
I also thoroughly reviewed almost every section I did. Okay, good. I don't know why that's almost every section. There's no point in doing a section if you're not going to thoroughly review it. But okay, thoroughly reviewing these sections, that's good. In fact, I got a little bored due to familiarity with the test materials after the June test, but I managed to discipline myself to go through them again and review each section more carefully for the September test. This is nuts. But it's not like this is uniquely nuts. I mean, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
I was quite frustrated by the 2 test experiences and wasn't sure what to do next after the September test. I have done some research on test anxiety and started counseling sessions with a psychiatrist since September. Though I felt I had reached the 175 level by the September test, I'm not sure whether my own evaluation was right, since I only had 1 fresh PT for diagnosis between the June and September tests. I haven't spent much time on the LSAT since September test. It's been 6.5 weeks, and I only did 4 prep tests, 10 game sections, 4 reading comprehension sections, and 300 logical reasoning questions, and only reviewed the games.
Holy cow. This person is, they've got drive. Leaf needs to go to law school and become a lawyer.
Oh, yeah. This is very lawyerly. Oh, yeah. 100%. This is a lawyer, folks.
Yep. If this is not you, think again.
Right. I think this is what you're up against. These are the people that you're going to be going to law school with. These are the people that you're going to be in legal practice with. These are the kinds of animals that are out there. I mean, I say that in a complimentary fashion. Like, this is like, Leaf is a beast. I'm really worried that I will underperform significantly on the December test day again. That's underperform significantly with a 168. I plan to take 2 to 3 6-section prep tests each week in various environments. Okay, don't do that. The test is 5 sections. Why are you doing that? Aiming to get -0 within a 33 minute per section time limit. Absolutely not. Why are you doing that?
She's trying to make it harder for herself because she's seen these sections before.
I know, but it's 35 minutes, and what? It's like you're suffering from anxiety. I wonder why.
Here would be, so I don't necessarily have an issue with her speeding it up for a section that she's seen before, or even for some of like the older reading comp sections. They're so much easier in my mind that trying to make it a little bit more difficult by pushing yourself to go a little faster is not something I have an issue with. But she's done these tests all at least twice, some of them 3 times, I would say stop with the
Yeah.
section practice and turn your focus to all the questions that gave your mind a run for its money. That is sitting there and thinking like, why the heck is this correct? Why is this answer wrong? And I would say, spend her time focusing on those questions she knows give her trouble
Yeah.
and really trying to understand them.
It seems very likely to me that Leaf has tried to substitute quantity for quality.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what's the point if you really understood it the second time you did it? What's the point of doing it a third time? You know,
Hmm.
I don't think she's actually understanding when she does her review.
Yeah.
That to me seems like the big likely problem.
So I have 3 questions that I like to ask people about every question that they get wrong. The first question goes like this. Let's say that the correct answer is A, right?
Yep.
And so I would say it's not really a question, sorry. It's like the beginning of a sentence and they have to finish it. And so I would say answer A is correct because, and then they have to finish it. And, if your answer is vague or doesn't deal with specific words from the answer choice or the passage, you're not really digging into why it's correct enough.
Yeah.
And then I would say the second question is answer choice C, which is the answer they chose, is wrong because. And a lot of people will say it's worse than answer A,
Yeah, right.
which which certainly may be true, or it is true, but tell us why it's worse. It's if that's what you say, then say it's worse because, and you need to talk about words. This is a test that is completely obsessed with wording and language and what those words mean. So if you can't identify the word or phrase or idea that made something wrong or made something correct, you're not gleaning enough from that question.
Yeah, I would add to that and just say there aren't as many second best answers as most people think there are. I mean,
Hmm.
the people think that all the time. Like, oh well, but okay, but if A wasn't there, then it would be D, right? And I'm like, not really. No, I
No,
mean,
no, it's like a false contrapositive or something, so it's not even doing anything to help the argument or whatever. Yeah.
right. It's just, and people are liking it or they're trying to make a case for their answer choice, and it's like, you're not really understanding that there's one right answer here, and that people who are really good at the test would have gotten this one right and would not have been attracted by that answer at all. So it's not enough to just be like, oh well, okay, yeah, I can see why it's A, and then move on. I mean, you really
Hmm.
have to ask yourself, what was it about C that makes it probably conclusively wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is great. What's your third question?
Why did you make this mistake? Which I think is different from just understanding the mistake itself, right? Understanding the mistake is understanding why this answer is in fact logically better or correct, whereas the other one is per se wrong.
Yeah, so answers to that would be like, oh, well, I just misread the argument.
Yes, which are
Or
horrible.
I misread I didn't correctly identify the question type.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or, yeah, I misread the answer choice. All of these are very easily corrected, by the way, but you have to force yourself to correct these mistakes.
Yeah, and even when you answer that, it can help to dig in because it's like, okay, you misidentified the question type. Why did you misidentify the question type? What don't you know about this question type? Did you read it too fast? Did you not realize that when it says properly inferred, that means must be true? Or, what wording did you miss? Was it really just as simple as you were reading too fast or you weren't reading carefully enough? I mean, I hear so many people who say, "Oh, I just need to read more carefully." And maybe that is part of the problem, but it's also in some ways I feel like kind of a cop out. Like it's like, "Oh, I just need to pay attention more." And it's like, yeah, but maybe you also just don't know that when something says that one thing increases the chances of another, that is a causal verb. And you didn't know that. And so even if you had read it really carefully, you still would have come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, be a little more introspective, folks. Get into those mistakes and be honest with yourself about why you're making them. The truth very frequently is something like, I don't have any fucking clue what to do on necessary assumption questions. That's the real truth.
Yeah.
But it's a brave student who actually tells me that. There just aren't that many of them. That's my favorite student in the class, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, Nathan, I realized that when I see these sufficient assumption questions, you're always just predicting the answer before you ever look at the answer choices, and I have no idea how you're doing that. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Now we're making progress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That book we talked about a couple episodes ago, Make It Stick?
Yeah.
They talk about the research of learning and so forth. Yeah. And they just, there's like a whole chapter or two dedicated to this idea of self-deception when it comes to knowing what you think you know. And last night, to try to hit that home again, and I know you've done this as well, but I was like, look, let's do these 4 questions. These are harder questions, but you absolutely cannot look up the answers until we talk about them. And everybody's really tempted to look them up, but most everyone there did not. And the ones that didn't, while we were sort of waiting for some other people to finish, they started diagramming the passage. It was one that could be diagrammed. It was a parallel reasoning question that had a lot of if-then statements in it. And they're like, well, I don't know what the answer is. I think it's the answer that I chose, but now I have to go through the process to see why that may or may not be true. And I was like, that's awesome, because if you had looked up the answer and it had been right, you would have been like, cool, I knew that. I knew it was right. And apparently you didn't, because that uncertainty compelled you to start diagramming that answer. I'm not saying I don't want to use that example to suggest that you should diagram everything. In fact, you should diagram almost nothing. But I think it just illustrates that once you look up the answer and see that you were either right or wrong, you're going to quickly jump to some conclusions that you get it, that everything is good to go, and that is a false positive.
Yeah. It makes me think of in logic games, I will have the class do a section, and in logic games, I'll never read the answer key to the class because we're going to go through the games anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to prove to you why the right answers are right and the wrong answers are wrong.
Yeah.
And we don't need the answer key to tell us the answers on the logic games ever.
Yeah.
There is an answer. We're not going to have any doubt. We're going to figure this out, and we're going to know what the answer is. And I think what the problem is, because I can spot students think they're getting away with things, right, Ben? But they're really not. When the teacher's up there looking you in the face, we know what you're doing. But I can see kids who think they understood it, and they're just spacing out, right? But then they ask me a question later, which clearly indicates that they didn't even understand what we were doing. So it's like, hey, get off your phone. What are you doing on your phone? You don't understand this stuff. You're in LSAT class right now. Stop it.
Yeah.
Because they can get on the games, especially, you can get them right for the wrong reason. Right? And if you just look at the answer key and go, oh yeah, I got it right, no problem. Then a lot of times it's like, well, yeah, but you didn't actually get it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get back to take it back to Leaf's email.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more here, Yeah, she says the reason why she's doing 6 section tests and 33 minutes per section is because it'll be the 4th round of practice, and I couldn't think of other ways to add pressure or increase the level of challenge. For someone who's struggling with anxiety, I got to just say again, I think that's the exact opposite of what you need to be doing here. I don't think more pressure and increased challenge is going to be the right thing for you. You need to go in there with the mindset that the test is easy, right? When Ben or I go in and score 170 something, high 170 something, that's because it's easy. It's not like because I did push-ups before I don't understand why people think make it harder for myself. I don't think so. I think you should be feeling Hey, Leaf, you have done the work.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone has ever in the history of the LSAT done the work, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think doing like doubling down or quadrupling down in the last 3 weeks is the right solution here.
Yeah.
Check this out. Since RC has been my nemesis, I plan to read every RC passage from Prep Test 1 through 78 again within 3 minutes and immediately write down the main point, reasoning structure, main purpose, author attitude, and keywords of the passage from memory.
Wow. I don't know why she's limiting it to 3 minutes.
Definitely don't. Well, she's trying to make it more pressure packed for herself. She's so worried about the time. Yeah, I get it. Like she's running uphill with weights on.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't think it's impossible sometimes for people like this to just take a deep breath, But
Yeah.
I gotta say, one of the reasons why I kick your ass on this test is that I go into it with a pretty zen kind of a mindset. Like
Yeah.
when I'm in that room, I'm just gleefully sitting there thinking about how stressed everyone else is and how I love the LSAT and it's easy to reach these crazily elite scores. I think you have to do something. I just don't know that more grinding it out is going to do anything here.
Yeah. I don't I mean I commend her effort and
Sure,
desire
absolutely.
to do more. I would just think that that effort needs to be redirected, which is probably why she's emailing us, but redirected to the problem. Any question, it doesn't matter the difficulty level, any question that causes her to like think that's hard for her to sort of think through, and to work on those and any that she missed, try to go through those three things that I was asking. Why is the correct one correct? Why is the wrong one wrong? And why do you think you ended up making that mistake? Actually, I think if she does that, if she goes back through those tests and looks at those questions that gave her trouble or that she got wrong, she might see some patterns that are often unrelated to question type. Like, oh wow, I keep missing or making mistakes with the phrase only if or whatever that mistake might be. And those insights, I think, will be more valuable than just this doubling down and practicing. The other thing I would work on is when she reads sentences, to practice turning those sentences into things that she can concretely see in her mind.
Yep.
I mean, when I'm going through like a question in class, sometimes I might feel like, hey, we got to get through a bunch of things here, and I might try to read it quickly, and then I start talking about it, and it's essentially a waste of time. So I don't actually make that mistake much anymore, but I used to when I first started teaching. I'd be like, oh, I gotta read this question quickly. Everybody's waiting for me, and I want to explain it and not waste anyone's time. But if I don't just slow down, read the first sentence, visualize what it's saying. Okay, I get that. Usually I have some sort of reaction like, oh, that's stupid, or that makes sense with my worldview. Then read the next sentence, and then it's like before it's even over, I can almost anticipate the problem, and I'm like, okay, let's start talking about it. Do you guys see the problem? Do you see the same problem that I'm seeing right now as we read through this? And if people aren't visualizing or trying to turn this horrible language into their own plain English, then they're not going to see it. But then you can see it if you try to do that.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Quantity is not going to be a substitute for quality. So I would just say, I mean, probably, can we say do a little less studying?
Yes.
I would like
Yes.
to say do a little less studying. I mean, it's much more in the last few weeks here for a student who has done all this work. It's much more about performance on the day of. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think you need to start doing things that are going to make you happier, healthier, and building confidence. And 10 hours a day of frantic LSAT prep is not going to do any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of deep work on really truly understanding the questions, plus, boy, exercise, sleep, meditation, nutrition, some therapy. I mean, for real, because this is clearly, she cares about it so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's almost gets counterproductive at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else on that?
No, no.
All right. Let's move on. This is a bit of an accommodations update, or kind of counterpoint to the stuff we were talking about last time. Hi, my name is Crystal. I've been listening to your podcast for a while. On episode 71, you guys were talking about accommodations. I just wanted to say I agree with you 100%. I took the test and bombed it with a score I don't want to say. I have epilepsy. And yeah, it makes things harder for me, but I don't look for any excuses. I was planning to take the December LSAT, but I'm still scoring so low. I'm hoping I can take it in February and still get into the school I want. Probably going to want to consider taking another year rather than applying after the February test. My scores have increased dramatically. I think people just don't understand they have to put in the extra effort needed and stop using excuses for weaknesses. If you can't perform well on the test, then maybe law school is not where you need to be. I got a little more information from her about the epilepsy thing. I wanted to know how the epilepsy actually manifested in her. She says she got it when she was 17. She was not born with it. The doctors never found out why she got it. I was in a medically induced coma for a little over a month, and I lost just about 50% of my memory. I've always been interested in a career in law, and I felt like nothing was going to get in my way. Studying and learning is so much harder for me because my memory is really weak. Everything I learn gets washed away within 2 days if I don't continue to review things, and if I stay too long on computers or anything digital, it usually triggers my seizures. I was studying on my own with some books for the LSAT and taking practice tests, and I thought it was enough to go ahead and take the test in June, but man, was I wrong. I plan on taking the test without accommodations because I took it in June without any, and I finished each section within the time limits. I just think my problem was the understanding of the material, which I'm working on now.
Well, I would have to commend her and agree with her that her problem most fundamentally is understanding, not the timing aspect, which everyone else seems to flip around and get backwards. But I would still say go for the accommodations.
Yeah, I mean, someone who actually, having seizures, you clearly qualify. If law school is really a thing that you want to do, I don't know. In this current environment, I don't know why you would not apply for accommodations. I mean, that seems silly.
Yeah, and I don't want to suggest that she even needs them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, hey, if you can get them, you should go get them. And that's what we've always been saying, right? Like, even if you don't need them, go get them if you can get them.
Everybody benefits from them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if I had accommodations, I would know for sure that I would score perfectly on the logic games, for example. And there's some chance that I wouldn't score perfectly on the logic games on any random section. I mean, I can have a bad day if 35 minutes to get all 4 games, I mean, I'm capable sometimes of doing all 4 games in 20 minutes. But I'm probably also capable of doing all 4 games sometimes in 37 minutes. And if I had accommodations, I would have more than 37 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know why. If you were taking the test, Ben, tomorrow and it counted and someone said, hey, do you want accommodations?
Check this box.
For free. They don't cost anything. Just here you go. Have them. I can't see myself turning it down. There's no cost to it. I guess there's a moral component if you're going to feel badly about it because you don't want special treatment.
I mean, I think she has the right attitude about it, but I think that when it comes to the accommodations themselves, she shouldn't think of them as somehow relevant to her thought process about whether or not she should have them, right?
Yeah. One thing she wrote makes me a little concerned about her understanding of the timing. She's saying, I'm not going to get them because I took it in June and I finished within the time limits.
Oh, they're not gonna look at that.
No, no, no. Because what I think she's thinking, oh, well, no, time is not even an issue for me. But time is an issue for almost everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so she finished, but she missed all the questions. That's really, really easy to do. Anybody can do that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is, Crystal, when you slow down and actually understand the questions, you might find that, it's going to take you a little bit longer to correctly identify, like to figure out the right answer. It might take you longer than you think. It's easy to just kind of gloss through it and think you're getting it, but not even be getting it at all,
Mm-hmm.
and just finish within the time limits. So if she's thinking like the extra time won't benefit her, that's a mistake, because it will absolutely benefit you.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much, Crystal, for writing in. Good luck. Love to hear how it goes for you. Oh, yeah. We have this note. Hey, guys. David again. I remember on episodes 35 and 71, you discussed LSAT proctors and swapped stories of their general ineptitude. Thankfully, I have never had problems, and my proctors at Chapman University were great, and they were even professionally dressed in suits, and now I know why. Yesterday at the official LSAC forums in Los Angeles, I saw my proctor. He was a rep for the law school, and I said hi to him and thanked him for handling test day well. We chatted a bit, and he explained that since the June administration was on a Monday this year, it was a work day for them, hence their suits. Just wanted to give you guys a positive anecdote concerning proctors.
Well, so wait, this like blows my mind. You're telling me that admissions, people who work in the admissions office for some law school also end up volunteering or signing up to go proctor LSATs?
Yeah, who knows?
I mean, it sounds like they took time off work to go do this.
Yeah, they're just at work, right? It's at Chapman. They're a rep for Chapman. Maybe they volunteered as a recruiting thing. I mean, I remember when I told you the story about the dean of, I can't remember. I'll just say it. I think it might have been McGeorge. The UOP law school.
Yeah.
People who took it there, the dean came in and gave them like a weird rah-rah speech.
Oh,
before.
yeah, I do remember that. What are you doing here?
Remember that? Yeah. Like had them do a rage yell or something like that. I don't remember what it was. It's comedy. Yeah. Anyway, I could see a school like Chapman, having their admissions folks, but maybe, who knows? Anyway, sounds like they did a very professional job of it, and so that's nice to know that there are proctors out there that don't have their heads completely up their asses, because we hear tons of stories of the proctors screwing things up.
So, should we volunteer and start proctoring at local places?
I'll be like, hey, you guys already prepared? Are you fully prepared for the test? You should just walk out right now. What are you doing? You do not belong here.
For more information on your preparedness, go to strategyprep.com and,
Yeah, totally.
Oh, you guys are struggling with the second game. Oh, yeah. Okay. No problem.
Yeah, that would be funny to get up and do like a little 10-minute comedy routine before, just completely bust their balls about how not prepared they are. No, I will not be volunteering to proctor.
Yeah, no. Yep. I don't think I will be either. But interesting. Good story.
Okay. We had a question on the website. Says, I started practicing for the September LSAT in July for this. Yeah. I took a test master's course, but I was not seeing the score that I wanted, 165 plus. I was taking prep tests for the sake of practicing, which really burned me out. Ooh, boy. That's a no-no there, huh? Just taking prep tests like, oh, yeah, I got to just drill these prep tests and then like not review them and not learn anything from them. Pretty classic mistake there. I decided to postpone until the December LSAT and took a 2-week break before starting to study again, which I wish people would not do. I hear that all the time, that people take weeks off. And I just think you should be doing a little bit every day. Taking a 2-week break from LSAT studying is a lot like taking a 2-week break from the gym. You know,
Yeah.
it's. I think people need to think about it as more of a slow, steady, daily kind of a thing, not
Mm-hmm.
this intensive, stressful thing that they only do sometimes. I think you just need to. It's civilized. Just start doing a little bit every day. How hard is that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I've since been using a similar strategy that we talk about on the show of taking one practice section a day along with other practice questions, passages, and games. Okay, yeah. If you're doing a section and thoroughly reviewing it, then you are welcome to do other questions and stuff on that day as well. That's
We
fine.
yeah, we permit that. That's fine.
We would permit that. I am doing much better. I scored in the goal range when I took the June 2016 prep test recently. Oh, okay, so I guess 165-ish. I'm nervous, though, about not building enough stamina. The first question in the 2016 prep test was logical reasoning, and I didn't miss a single question, but I missed about 7 questions in the second logical reasoning section. Do you think that's caused by stamina, Ben?
Not no. I
Or
mean like
it's like an LSAT question. Does this data support the inference that her problem is stamina?
that certainly could be the case, but I suspect she did unusually well in the first one and unusually poorly in the second.
Right. If she got 2 more guesses than normal, right? Or 50-50s, right? She had 50-50s and she got
Yeah.
unlucky in the second section, but she had gotten lucky in the first section. That by itself would support a 7-question difference.
I would look at the questions that she got wrong, see how difficult they are compared to other questions, and so on. I'd dig into that.
Yeah, and when you're reviewing, it's about reviewing the 7 that you missed. I mean, do you understand why you made those mistakes? And if all 7 of them are like, oh, I guess I just didn't read it properly, then
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that supports your stamina hypothesis. But
Mm-hmm.
if you do it again when you're fresh and you miss it again, then your problem is not stamina. Your problem is you don't understand it.
Yeah.
She says, I could feel myself getting tired as the test progressed, along with getting an achy neck.
Oh wait, so a comment there. It does sound like what she's doing, which is not a uncommon thing, and that is she's jumping into the section and she is focusing so much on the questions, which is not a bad thing, but too much almost, that she's physically still the entire time. Probably does not even realize that her head is not moving at all and her whole neck and shoulders are stiff.
So a little bit of like chair yoga is in order, huh?
Yeah, just like do a page of questions and then just like stretch your arms for a half second to make sure you're not unconsciously like locked into like a whole like a
Yeah.
clenched fist sort
Well,
of
yeah, like when
mindset.
I see clenched fist literally because I see people who have like the death grip on their pencil. You know,
Yeah.
I'm like watching the pencil just thinking, is it going to snap? Is it going to snap? Are they going to do it? And you see
Yeah.
people break the tip off on their
Yeah.
page and stuff and it's like, okay, maybe it might be time for us to close our eyes for 5 or 10 seconds, take a couple deep breaths and just stretch a little bit, realize that I say this all the time, but I like saying it. So, the whole thing about, hey, what were your grandparents doing when they were your age? Are you more fortunate than they were? Because you probably are. Odds are very high that you're more
Hmm.
fortunate than your grandparents. And, okay, I get it, your achy neck, but I mean, you're not in the hot sun like picking cotton.
Hmm.
And so if it's like if it feels that way, if you're getting the achy neck, then you're doing it wrong because it doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, that would make you tired. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
not surprising that she feels tired, and maybe that supports her hypothesis about the other questions, but it's an easy solution. Just every 2 pages, just kind of stretch the shoulders, move things around.
That's not building stamina. That's more
Hmm.
like, hey, relax during the 35-minute sections. You just
Yeah.
shouldn't be feeling this way.
Yep.
Stop gripping the pencil so tightly. That's not helping you get the answers.
Yeah.
I have 8 prep tests left. Yeah, she wants any recommendations on how to build stamina without burning out. I would just say go less is more. Do the 1 section a day. Take a deep breath. The second you start feeling that achy neck, put the pencil down. I'm also really nervous about not being able to sleep the night before. I'm not a nervous test taker, but I always get nervous about sleeping through my alarm. It happened once in college, and I have been scarred ever since. Hey, I actually have a sleep recommendation, Ben.
Go for it.
The new iOS update, you're probably an Android guy, not an iPhone guy.
Really? Where'd you get that?
Just guessed. I don't know. You seem savvy. I know because I know you have a PC, not a Mac.
Yeah, I do have a PC, but I've always had an iPhone.
Oh, okay. Nice. The newest or one of the new iOS updates, when you click on clock, have you seen this?
Yeah.
Bedtime? It is awesome. Do you love it?
I haven't used it because I have Fitbit.
Oh, you've got your own
it's got,
system.
Yeah, its own thing. Yeah.
It's
boring.
No, but it's a very because I had never had a Fitbit, but it is a very powerful nudge. Bedtime asks you how much sleep you want to get. And so I was like, well, I don't know, 8 hours. Is that not the number that we're supposed to? I know nobody does that, but like, hey, 8 hours.
Okay.
I put 8 hours, and then it was like, okay, well, what time do you need to get up? And I put like 7 or 8 or whatever it is that I usually get up.
Yeah.
And now it will tell me, well, then your bedtime is X. And it will give you a reminder an hour before it's bedtime.
Yeah.
And it will then also keep track of, it just uses it does device usage, like device motion and usage, I guess. But it keeps track of when I'm not fucking around with the phone, which is basically, I am fucking around with the phone like 100% of the time that I'm awake, or at least it's in my pocket, it's moving around, So I don't know how exactly it does it, but it's been keeping track of my sleep. And it has been an amazing little nudge in the direction of getting more sleep. Since I started using the bedtime app, I am getting way more sleep than I can ever remember getting in my entire life.
That's awesome.
Dude, it's great. I feel great. I am like looking forward to, bedtime basically. It's like, oh yeah, this is the time for me to go to bed now and power down and make sure that I wake up tomorrow not feeling like shit. Because I'm capable of getting 3 hours of sleep if I don't pay attention. I'll have something going on tomorrow morning and I just won't be thinking about it, and then I'll just stay up way too late goofing off, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh good, I'm gonna get 4 hours of sleep tonight.
Yeah.
So anyway, check that out, and maybe that would help our writer here. And can we say their name? Oh yeah, because they posted it on the website. So Namrata, Namrata, thank you very much for writing into the show.
Yeah.
It's an email from Scott. Hey guys, love the podcast. Now wait, this is from a prep test. Are we going to do this? We're going to read I guess it's a summary of the questions. I just don't want to get in trouble with our overlords.
Yeah, let's see here. Let's jump into Scott's issue, not necessarily with this particular question.
Go ahead then. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So what does Scott say? Scott says, basically, Scott was doing this flaw question and identified a mistake and then, or a flaw in the argument, and then went into the answer choices and chose the wrong answer. And it wasn't the flaw that they were, quote, looking for, right? And so he's wondering, how can I stop falling for these traps and identifying the flaw that they're not really looking for, and instead find the actual flaw that they are testing us on for whatever question. And one thing that he said, where did he say this? I thought he said that he went too quickly. Oh, yeah. He said, I reach the question stem and see it's a flaw in the reasoning question. I quickly think of my guess.
Yeah, there's your problem. Wow.
to the flaw and say, oh, that's easy. The flaw is that just because blah, 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 blah. And he's off to the answer choices and choosing the wrong one. So, yeah, I think I do remember this now. I wrote him back and I said, well, you sound like you're doing it too quickly and you're guessing.
Yeah, I mean, that might just be, yeah. If you're ever thinking of it as a guess, it's not supposed to be a guess. Flaw questions are evidence-based. And when they tell you that there's a flaw in the reasoning, that means there's a flaw explicit in the reasoning. And you shouldn't be quickly thinking of a guess like, oh, maybe it's this. You should be putting your finger on the spot in the argument where they actually made a logical flaw.
Yeah, and I would say that there's I don't want to like overcomplicate this process, but I would say there's actually two stages of analysis, and
Okay.
that is he is reading the passage first, which is something that we both do and think is good. And then he's reading the question stem or prompt, whatever you want to call it, and saying, oh, it's a flaw question. And then he says, I quickly think of my guess as to the flaw. I would say he's missing the first stage, which is in most cases when you're reading the passage or the argument and it turns out to be a flaw question, but you don't even know that it's a flaw question yet. In most of those cases, you should be at least, somewhat sensitive to the fact that there's a problem with the argument. The reason I say it's a two-stage analysis is that sometimes I read the argument and I see the conclusion, I see the evidence, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that seems reasonable enough. And then it's like the argument is most vulnerable to criticism on the grounds I'm like, oh, it's a flaw question. Oops, apparently I missed it. So then I'm going to force myself to go back and find that flaw for sure. But that's the exception. In most cases, I've read the argument and I'm thinking, this is bad for this reason.
Yeah, we're not surprised when we see a flaw question stem. Most of the time, we already saw that flaw.
Yeah. So in essence, Scott and anyone else who's approaching the questions as he is missing two opportunities to find the flaw. The first one, when you read through it, usually you'll find it then. And if you didn't, the second opportunity is to go back and really think about it, which he did quickly, but not really. I mean, that real process is, what's the evidence? Let me make sure I understand that. What does that evidence prove, and how is that different from what the conclusion is saying?
Awesome. He also says, he fell in love with B. It matches his guess. And he says, that's it. I would say, done. B it is. What do you think's wrong with that?
That's in most cases, if you like an answer choice, then you should be keeping that open and then going to the others to see if there's anything that might be better or maybe reveal something that you're missing about B. So I'm surprised that he was just done there.
Yeah, you can like the answer choice. That's fine. You can have a hypothesis that that's going to turn out to be the right answer, but you certainly still have to read C and D and E because there's two errors that you can make, or there's two errors that you have to make in order to miss one of these logical reasoning questions, right? You have to not only choose a wrong answer, but you have to not choose the credited answer. And if you don't read all five, you're not even giving yourself a chance to maybe save yourself. You could read C or D or E here, and it could be like, oh, wait, that also sounds like what I was looking for. That also matches what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to compare that closely to B and just make sure, which one is the best description of the flaw that was in the argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He then says, can you guys help me with a trick to start thinking like A and not like B, which was the right answer and the wrong answer? The trick is to just slow down and actually think about what you're reading. And I would say focus a lot on stage one. Read the first sentence, understand it. Read the second sentence, understand it. Read the third sentence, understand it. And at that point, if you really do try to understand things and think about what they're saying, a lot of times the flaw will just jump right out at you. You say, well, if that's really what you're saying, you're stupid. Here's why.
Well, Ben, I think that's about it for this week. You got anything else you want to say to the listeners?
No. No. I was going to say something about Trump, but I don't know what to say about Trump.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know what to say about Trump either. I just, I just can't get that worried about it. We've cried wolf so many times, every single time this is the worst president of all time.
Yeah.
You know what? I do have to say that this was destined to be the most hated president of all time. No matter who won, they were going to be the most hated president of all time.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that at least now it's going to be deserved. That's my joke.
Yeah, I like it. I have to commend him, though. I am impressed. I mean, he's defied everybody, right?
Oh, yeah.
Defied everybody's expectations, all the, quote, experts, including myself, who mocked him last night in class.
Oh, yeah. I mocked him on the show. I mean, I've said a million times that he's never going to win. Don't worry about it. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, he did it. He pulled off a crazy sneak attack on democracy.
Yep.
So that's awesome. I guess we're going to find out what's going to happen. You think the podcast will still be here in 4 years, Ben, when we're doing this whole thing again?
4 years. That sounds like a long time. Doesn't that sound like a long time to you?
Except that we know that it's not at all, right? I mean, we elected Obama 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's
and re-elected
true.
him 4 years ago, and it's like nothing. Time just flies.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, the election cycle is going to be cranking, 2 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
We'll be talking about primaries and bullshit already. So, yeah, it'll be right around the corner. It'll be interesting to see who ends up getting nominated now in 2020. The Democrats have a chance now to, nominate somebody that maybe more people will be more excited about.
Yeah.
It's like I voted for Clinton, but I wasn't thrilled about it,
Mm-hmm.
And I would have loved to have the first woman president. That's a nice achievement for our society. That's inevitable. It's going to happen very soon. But yeah, maybe we can get somebody that we can actually get jazzed up about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks for listening. You can send all the hate mail about the election to ben@strategyprep.com. If you have questions for the show, you can send it to both of us at help@thinkinglsat.com. You can tweet me @infox. You can tweet the show @thinkinglsat. Okay, so now we will cut to our interview with Anne Levine about law school admissions questions. Okay, wonderful.
All right.
So with us in Santa Barbara is Anne Levine. Anne, how have you been?
I'm all right. I'm alive. The sun came up. Life continues.
What
How are you guys?
What
happened? We had an election.
Wait, we did?
Yeah. Your readers your listeners might be so busy studying for the LSAT they could have missed it, which might be the whole problem. No, just kidding.
So, what's going on with that? What happened?
I won't really say what happened, but I might offer a little pep talk about it, if I might.
Yeah, sounds great.
So in an era when people, present company excluded, are a little down on lawyers, I would say that lawyers are really, for people that are really upset about what's going on with our federal government, lawyers are sort of our one hope right now. The people who are, on the one hand, going to bring lawsuits when things are unconstitutional, the people who are going to represent immigrants and improve policing and improve community relations and local government. This is all going to come from lawyers. It's going to come from law students and lawyers. And that's really where we have the biggest power right now to check government. If the whole federal government is all going to be from one persuasion, then people who believe in, are more civil rights inclined, are more inclined to fight for equality in marriage, racial equality, justice equality, et cetera. I mean, this effort really is going to come from people who are going to law school and people and recent law school graduates. So I just put that out there that what people are trying to do does matter.
It does seem like a good time to channel your rage and do something about it, for the people out there who really care, who are really invested, rather than bitching and complaining on Twitter all day. I mean, I guess a little bit of that you can do for a while, but
it's therapeutic in some regard. I think that especially for people for whom this might be their first presidential election, it's a doozy. And rather than feeling disenfranchised, to use the tools you have, your education, your networks, and try to find a way to engage with it. I mean, I think that's really for, not everyone's going to law school because those are the things they care about, but most people going to law school care about one side of it or another, whether it's corporate tax rates, if they're going to be working on that end, or whether it's some of the issues I already mentioned. I think, the law is a place where we can really address that. And it's not all about who we elect, but, what we do within the framework we have. So that's like probably the most serious topic you've ever addressed on your show.
Oh yeah, we never address any
like
serious
this is
topics.
Like as deep as we get. So I'm sort of like wanting to do one of those, and like, okay, change the topic. Like let's not go there. But I think it has to go there a little bit. I think, we have to regroup a bit. I certainly wasn't expecting this to be the tone when we scheduled to do this the morning after Election Day, but I'm usually a little more bubbly. But people who are playing to law school, don't stop now. Keep going.
Cool. So your expertise is law school admissions, and people who are passionate about these issues are thinking about applying to law school this cycle or next cycle. We love having you on because you can give us sort of the latest in law school admissions. Anything exciting that you would like to talk about? Any big news in admissions?
Well, I think what I'm seeing right now at the beginning of this admission cycle and starting to see some results for my admission consulting clients is I've noticed a few things. Most of them have been at the top end of the law school spectrum simply because those are some of the schools that people have heard back from already. For example, UVA has been amazing this cycle at scheduling phone calls with applicants and admitting them within, an hour to 3 days after that in some occasions, and not being as stringent on LSAT right now, and really grabbing some fabulous people quickly. And I think that's an awesome trend I'd like to see more of at comparable schools. I also in the past have seen Georgetown sort of take some lower numbers under the binding early decision, maybe high GPA, lower LSAT people, but I haven't seen that as much this time. I've seen most of those people get deferred. Have you seen that also, Ben?
I'm not tracking that as closely, so I don't really know. But I was curious, you said that UVA seems to be more flexible with the LSAT. So do you think they're giving more weight to GPA or other factors such as experience or?
Yeah, I think in this case, in the particular case I'm thinking of, and actually I can think of another too in which someone was waitlisted, they're looking at experience in addition to just GPA. Both of those candidates were not right out of school, but did have excellent GPAs from when they were in school. Both brought really exciting and different professional experiences related to law school. So I'm really happy with how they're doing things right now. Other schools, interviews has been really the biggest change over the last couple of years in terms of what I've seen from the law school admission end. As numbers went down, as technology improved, more schools are incorporating interviews into their process in different ways and stages. For example, WashU is doing phone interviews and in-person interviews sort of liberally. I think also they're doing it before people even apply as a recruiting measure. And then you have schools like Vanderbilt and Northwestern where you proactively sign up for an interview. You don't have to be asked to do one. And then you have schools like Georgetown that does a combination of interviews, some in person, some with alumni, some are the dreaded group interview. You have schools like UCLA that at least in the last year and now are starting to sort of handpick people to do Skype or phone interviews with. So I think that interviews, and although I've been focusing largely on the top 20 schools in those examples, that's where most of the interview requests have been coming from. And I think that that's a really important part of this process where applicants really need to be able to articulate why a school interests them, what they're looking for, that's something that's going to task applicants to really be able to say credibly. And I think these are tools that really help the most promising applicants, even when the numbers might not be there.
But it's still not a situation where people would want to be asking for these interviews, right? You're saying that all these
are. Really do that, yeah. Except, I mean, the only asking for an interview isn't going to get you anything. The law schools are interviewing the people they want to interview, with the exception of Vanderbilt or Northwestern, that you can sign up for the interview proactively.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. I mean, I think if there's going to be a lot of people who might be excited to be interviewed, but maybe not have much to say, right?
Yeah.
When they're actually asked questions.
I think being able to practice articulating how your past experiences influence your career goals is a good thing to practice. I would also say most people feel they interview well. And I would say 75% of those people are correct, that they do interview well. But I also think with a large number of international students applying to law school, which I've really seen increase steadily year over year, not in a scientific way, don't ask me for numbers, but in an anecdotal way. I mean, I personally see a lot more applicants who either are international and came here for college, or are coming from international institutions and applying to law school here. I'm seeing, I think interviews are very stressful for them, depending on their English language fluency. And so that can add another layer of anxiety for some applicants as well. But I think it's a really promising development. And, there's always the Harvard interview, where no one's getting into Harvard unless they've gotten through the interview. So, I think I think it's a great thing that law schools are, especially those law schools that are incorporating alumni into the interview process. It's a great opportunity for law school applicants to network, to really ask someone about their career and how they got there, and really another person to explore the legal field with. So, I mean, these are great. I think these are generally really good developments for applicants.
Yeah. If you were still on the other side of the fence, looking at applications to accept people to your school, what kind of questions would you ask?
Well, I don't think we have to be theoretical about it. I mean, I think we know what the schools are asking. And some schools have friendlier interview cultures than others. I think, and this, oh God, I should mention this dreaded video recording interview thing that Northwestern does sometimes, and Cornell did last year, and I think it was Seton Hall or did it last year, or St. John's, I can't remember. But it's awful. Not to make anyone more nervous by calling it awful, but basically, you get a couple tries to answer some interview questions. And at some of the schools, they've been some tough ones that have been more like what you would expect from MBA interviews. In terms of what I would ask, I would say...
What are some of the questions, I guess? You're saying
some of the questions. So some questions to absolutely expect, or maybe if the person has your resume, you should expect to sort of explain different experiences you've had, what you learned from them, why you sought them out. Be prepared with strengths and weaknesses. And not cheesy ones like I'm a perfectionist. Better to be authentic and introspective. Be prepared with why you want to go to law school, what kinds of careers you see for yourself in your future, and how that law school is a good fit for you culturally and because of your goals and where you want to practice or work. And be prepared to have a thoughtful question or two for the interviewer. Not just tell me about this clinic, but, something that's thoughtful and not, are students nice to each other or competitive? Like, what do you think they're going to say? So I would just say, come up with some time with some thoughtful questions. Think about ways you've been involved in undergrad or professionally, and ways that you can continue that or expand on it or link it to something that's offered at the law school, and ask questions about perhaps what people with your interests would get involved in. What opportunities would they suggest that you pursue at their law school? So just be thoughtful. The number one piece of advice I would give is it's better to be humble than to be arrogant.
Yeah, great.
So, Anne, what's your greatest weakness as a law school applicant?
My greatest weakness 22 years ago as a law school applicant was that I didn't study for the LSAT. I flat out didn't study for the LSAT. Have I ever told you the story, Nathan? This is pretty funny. So in May of my senior year, A friend basically says to me, Ann, you should really go to law school and what you care about, you should really go to law school. He was in law school at University of Miami, and that's where I was undergrad. And I'm like, okay, so what do I have to do? Oh, you have to sign up for the LSAT. Well, the late registration deadline is passed. This is pre-internet, pre-cell phones, back when we had something called long distance calling, where you paid for each minute on the phone. So I call, and it happens to be the very last day you can possibly sign up for the LSAT in June. So I call, I'm on hold for something like 68 minutes. I'm livid because that cost me like, I don't know, $14 or something, maybe more. I can't remember. And they finally get on the phone, and I convinced them to pay my long distance bill. So that was sort of my first legal argument there.
Wow.
But in any event, I signed up for the LSAT basically 4 weeks before the LSAT. I opened a book. I didn't know that prep courses existed, even if what they were was very limited at the time with things like Kaplan and what have you. So I just started reading the books, and then I went and took the test. How awesome was that?
Yeah, well, we still see that every day. I mean, we get people in class that are like, yeah, I just took it cold the first time, and then I read a book and took it again, and now can you help me?
So I didn't even think to take it again. I just took it, and I was done. To be honest, in hindsight, I didn't do that bad, considering I had no clue what I was doing. I did not do that badly. So I think to myself, God, just think what I would have done if I'd had Nathan or Ben.
Well, that's almost even more tragic when we hear that. It's like, it's devastating.
But here's the thing. For that part in my life, for that time in my life, I was restricted to going to law school in the state of Florida. So I either was going to go to UF, FSU, or UM, and my score was going to be fine to get me into those schools. So it wasn't like a concern for me. So I would say as a law school applicant, that was my biggest weakness. And I don't know, maybe that in itself, even though that's something that happened in 1995, it might still be useful to someone.
So now I'm going to ask my favorite interview question, which is, what's your second biggest weakness?
Currently, or as a law school applicant?
As a law school applicant, what's your second biggest weakness?
My second biggest weakness as a law school applicant, I would say in hindsight, my choice of undergraduate major. No, I take it back. I might even put this as my first. The biggest mistake I made as a law school applicant, other than not preparing for the LSAT, was my first semester at the University of Miami was 1992. I got to vote for Bill Clinton, but it also meant that my first day of college was Hurricane Andrew. And school was interrupted for 3 weeks. It was fairly traumatic in terms of interrupting the semester and all of that. And it actually meant that we had no final exams. And because there was no time for reading periods. So professors were told they were not allowed to give final exams. And they were just supposed to base it on 3 tests during the year or whatever other requirements. But they were not allowed to give a cumulative test at the end because there was no time for a reading period. Most of my professors defied that in my first semester of college. So we had all of the coursework and all of the exams, but we did not have time built into the schedule to prepare for those exams. You had your last day of class, and that was your test. That covered the whole semester. And my first semester grades in college were, I don't remember what they were, but they were pretty bad. I mean, if they were a 3.0, maybe 2.9, 3.0, something like that, they were bad. And it never occurred to me to explain in my application. And now maybe the schools in Florida, we can argue, could have figured that out, what happened there, especially since I ended up going to my alma mater for law school. And the rest of my grades became stronger and stronger every single semester. But I think that was a big mistake as a law school applicant, that I didn't take time and say, by the way, like I also could say, if you're going to ask me what my third mistake is, I would say my third mistake was, I actually think I could have written a pretty darn good diversity statement. I don't know if they existed back then. I don't recall that being part of the process, to be honest with you, but probably I just assumed it didn't apply to me. But I was the one Jewish girl at my high school in Alabama, and I could have written a diversity statement. Just saying.
Cool.
Don't ask me my fourth weakness. I don't have any others. Everything else is amazing about me.
Awesome. I have a couple items here, just kind of random questions that I've been getting from students. One was a question that I hadn't heard before. Someone was asked on an application to explain if they've ever resigned from a job, I think, because of unfavorable circumstances.
Okay.
Have you heard of that question, or what do you think?
I've seen that once or twice. I don't know if I've seen it phrased exactly that way, but if you've ever been terminated from a job, please, and if it includes resignation, fine. If you've ever been terminated from a job, please explain the circumstances. I have seen that on a couple applications.
This question was specifically resigned, which made me then, and it seems so vague, resigned because of unfavorable circumstances.
Yeah.
My gut was like, leave it blank no matter what, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on the circumstances. I think, there are some applications where I've advised people to say something like laid off as part of, what do you call it? A furlough, or laid off as part of oh gosh, it's escaping me this morning. I drank too much last night, apparently. You know what I'm trying to say? Help me out, guys. As part of a downsizing. Thank you. Thanks for your help, guys. Really,
yeah, you're
really,
welcome.
thank you.
No
As
problem.
part of a downsizing effort, or wasn't a good personality fit or whatever. But I mean, yeah, that's sort of an odd question. I'm inclined to sort of, avoid it.
I was just wondering what the schools were fishing for on there, and it seemed to me like maybe they were just trying to fish for someone who was gonna, pop off about how they hated their ex-employer for a million reasons.
No law schools want to read that stuff. Do you know what I mean? So like I generally, and maybe this is the Hillary Clinton supporting optimist in me, but I generally think that people aren't trying to get people, that law schools aren't trying to get you. And they're just sort of wanting to know maybe adversity you faced, or maybe if there's a habit of you leaving jobs. I don't know. I wouldn't stress over that one. I'd twiddle my thumbs at it and move on.
Okay, cool. What's going on with early decision, early action programs? It's that time of year, right?
It's totally that time of year. The first message I would give out about binding early decision and early action stuff is that if there's not that one magic school that you would attend no matter what happened in the universe, then binding is not for you. It shouldn't be used as simply a game. Well, if I can't get in this school, I can get in that school, blah, 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 blah. I mean, there is a way to game it, right? Let's say you apply by November 15th to USC. You decide if you're not going to get in binding in USC, you're going to do the second round at Cornell or Penn or UVA. Then if you don't get in those, you'll do binding at Georgetown, right? There's a way to game this. But on the other hand, really hope that with such different schools, you have a preference between them. And, if you end up getting a full scholarship to Loyola, that you're not going to kick yourself for binding yourself to some school across the country.
It's like proposing marriage.
Well, it's more permanent.
Right? I mean, you're declaring your one true love when you apply binding.
It's more permanent. You can take the ring back, Nathan.
True.
Okay? You can get a divorce. Now,
you could put your diploma in the recycling.
Yeah, that's really productive. $200,000 later. I would, here's the thing. I'm not necessarily a huge believer in that. I believe that very few law school applicants should apply binding. Yes, that's my statement. But if you are going to apply binding, you can play it a little bit with schools, especially because one of the trends I am seeing is there are more schools that are having these second round or later binding deadlines. So if you don't get in your first choice one, you have time to put in or upgrade your application at another. But if scholarships are going to be a part of your consideration process, if you haven't yet gotten to visit the school or the city you're binding yourself to, really think about what you're doing. Because especially with some of my younger clients, I believe that 9 months ahead of time, we don't always know in our 20s where we want to be 9 months later, a year down the road. You could be very happy with a relationship in Boston and that person's going to New York. So you want to go to New York, but then that doesn't work out. So now you're stuck being in New York with that awful person. So I just sort of think keeping things loosey-goosey. Is that still a word? It's the drinking again. I got to stop. Keeping things open in your life is usually better than, oh my God, I got into that one amazing school that I do not want to go to, but I got in, so I have to go. So I would just say use it sparingly.
Okay.
But can it give you a bump? Yeah, it can give you a bump. That's what everyone really wants to know. But do I have a better chance at such and such school? Yes, if they take people with your numbers generally, you have a better chance of getting in if you apply binding. Unless it's a school that's offering a significant scholarship with the binding. But at some schools you can choose, are you going to do the binding program that comes with a scholarship, which is going to be more competitive than regular admission, or you can choose if you're going to do the binding that doesn't come with a scholarship. So that's a new and interesting trend in the world of early decision at law schools.
Cool, yeah.
So wait, for the one with early decision and scholarship,
yeah,
you're more looking at like a safe school then, or?
No, what those schools are trying to do is, so for example, it's like GW trying to grab the people who would normally go to Georgetown. It's like Northwestern trying to grab the people
Yeah.
that might otherwise go to University of Chicago.
Yeah, so it's a safe school for you. Like,
Yes, I would say that. It should be, yeah, I mean, that's one way of putting it. I wouldn't say that everyone who's within the numbers for a school will get that program, but they will choose the top people who do that
yeah,
because they're sure things.
yeah. Huh. Cool.
Anything else in early decision, early action?
Not yet. Schools haven't really gotten back on those applications yet. So, check in with me, maybe after Thanksgiving, early mid-December, and let's see what the schools have done with early decision differently this year than previous years. And that will be, I think, very helpful in people who are thinking about a second round of early decision or people who are applying next year. And I think I'm coming to see you next weekend, Nathan, too. So maybe by then I'll have a little more information also.
Yeah, I'll see you in San Francisco. That'll be great.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have one more question here, I think,
Please.
which is Ben and I talked to, or we gave some advice to a listener who wrote in and asked about 6-year joint bachelor JD programs. Ben and I were both pretty negative on the idea, just in that it was like, why are you rushing into law school? But we would love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very personal thing, right? I think that for those programs that people apply as college freshmen for those programs, that's a little scary. Like that a 17-year-old is deciding what they want to do. There are some 17-year-olds, like I have some friends from college who their kid, I have no doubt, I've known since he was 15, maybe younger, that he was going to be a lawyer. He like killed it in mock trial, that he was always going to do that. I remember tweeting years ago a picture of him reading my book when he was like, I don't know, 14. Like he was, that kid, I think, would be a good kid to do a 6-year program. But I think for most people, it can be pretty limiting. I would also want to make sure that the time commitment for that program doesn't restrict people from having the freedom to really explore life while they're in college. To do a study abroad, to take internships in different things, explore different things, get involved in different things. I had friends in college who did 6-year MD programs, bachelor's and MD. And they were still involved in campus and they were still doing a lot of things, but they were stressed.
As are all pre-MD students anyway. I mean, it's all, if you're a pre-MD, it's like, it's pretty nuts even when you're a freshman.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, I think the programs are great opportunities for some. I think just, again, how I feel about binding yourself when you're a young person, like just do it cautiously.
Cool.
But it saves a lot of money if that's what you want to do.
Is it actually cheaper? So it's actually 1 year less?
Well, it's 1 year less of undergrad, 1 year less of law school, right? Pretty much.
Wait, it's only 1 year less, right?
Yeah.
1 year less, okay. So, I mean, it's not nothing depending on the school you're talking about. It could easily be 50 grand right there.
Yeah.
And you said, so there's no chance of making law school 2 years? This is not going to happen?
Well, I mean, what do I know? I thought Hillary Clinton was going to be president. I think it's unlikely. I mean, Barack Obama would like it to be 2 years, but I don't think he gets much say in that. I think that schools are adding in more experiential learning opportunities. So the nature of legal education is morphing into more experiential, into more travel-related opportunities, global exploration, things like that. So I think there are some changes, but I don't think you're really going to – I think law school is like the last thing that's ever going to change ever.
That seems likely based on how the LSAT tends to move and how law schools tend to move. Yeah.
The LSAT's the worst. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see that being an overwhelming movement. I think the schools that have tried it, it hasn't been very successful. I mean, is Brooklyn still doing their program? Northwestern's not doing theirs, are they? I mean, I think most of these places Southwestern has a 2-year scale program, but I think most of these schools that have tried the 2-year thing, it just doesn't gain traction.
Is it that the students are interested in it, or is it that people are potentially not interested in hiring, so then the students are not interested in it? Or I
don't know. It's a chicken or an egg thing, I'm not really sure.
Huh. It'd be cheaper, so students, I would think.
But you don't get work experience while you're doing it. You're pushing through really fast.
Yeah. I
don't know. It just, for whatever reason, hasn't caught on. I haven't had that many clients who've been interested in pursuing it either.
Well, I think that's everything I have on my list. Ben, do you have anything else for Anne?
No, except maybe just this difference between taking the test in February and taking it in December. That's like
I'm banging my head against the counter.
I get this question all the time, and my reaction is, hey, take the test when you're ready, and then just apply next year if you're going to have to take it in February.
That's a great answer. So this is coming this year because there was not much room to sign up, not much time to sign up for the December LSAT when September scores came out. So it caused a bit of a freak out. And this is going to happen again with December, by the way. If you're going to take a February LSAT, you got to be signed up before December. I mean, I think they have a notice about that on the site, right? So here's the thing. I'm not a fan of applying to law school in March. I'm not a fan of applying to law school before March, but not allowing your application to be complete until March. I'm just not a fan of that. I don't think that's how law school applicants get the best results. I think that serves no one but the law schools themselves. So if you're not ready for December, wait, do something fun or interesting for 6 months and apply to law school in the fall. Don't rush December. Some people really rush December, especially it's your third and last time. I think that desperation is not a conducive mental atmosphere for taking the test successfully. I almost would rather people try applying now with what they've got and then decide. And maybe they do very well in February and they can update their applications with a new score. Or if they're waitlisted somewhere, they can use their February score for some traction there or increase scholarship dollars. But just the waiting and applying with that score is where I really sort of draw the line.
Yeah. How many people do you think can expect to get fee waivers for their applications? I mean, if someone is sitting down and saying, hey, I want to apply to these 6 schools, is it reasonable to expect that half of them will waive their fee, or is it pretty normal to expect to just pay?
It depends on the person. So if you're a competitive applicant, you should email the schools and ask them, say, here are my numbers. It would be really helpful to have a fee waiver. You can go to a law school forum. Isn't Boston this weekend or something? I don't know. Go to a law school forum and you'll get fee waivers. Make sure to register for credential referral service through LSAC. You get fee waivers. So it just depends how proactive you are. I can't give an exact number for people that are competitive and the law schools aren't really seeking them out. They have very low numbers. Then they're unlikely to be invited with fee waivers to very desirable schools. But fee waivers are a thing, and you can ask for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it costs you nothing to ask, so why not? Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Anne. Come back anytime. I will look forward to seeing you next weekend in San Francisco. That'll be fun.
I appreciate it. I look forward to it as well, and it's always fun to talk with you guys, and let me know how I can be of help.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, Anne.